everyday joy starters. Rachel Joy Baribeau here. I am so glad you are here. Thank you for making this show so successful. Thank you for caring about what I have to say. I got to tell you guys, a lot of great things happening. Going to be building out. I'm going to have a podcast background. Going to have just a lot of different things coming up, changing, and I'm so super excited about it. But, we are post retreat, post gala, and I'm still riding the wave of that. I'm still very, very excited. So now I go straight into book season, right? My second book is due in August, and so I am so pumped about that. I'm going to jump right into the story this week and share with you my heart and all the things that I learned. So let me back it up to this past week, Thursday. The Thursday before that, as I am leaving Arkansas, which I've got my bands here on my arm, and I'm just so proud and have my keys and my shirts and in touch with the players and the player engagement staff there. Shout out to Danny Wheeler, just amazing staff that he has compiled. They're going through spring practice right now, and so I'm so super pumped for them and excited. And I'll be back out on the road in a couple of months at schools, churches, those things. But right now it's all booked. But I'm getting on an airplane. One of my lifelong best friends says, Rachel, any chance at all with your schedule, and I know this is slim to none and Slim just left town, any chance at all that you could come be a judge for Dancing with the Stars in Columbus for Alzheimer's research? Now, this thing's been going on, I think 7, 8 years, something like that. And a girlfriend of mine that I've known for many years runs it. And so I looked at my calendar. It's 5 hours away. For those that do not know, I consider Columbus one of my hometowns. Okay. So my grandmother lived there. I was raised a lot of time with my grandmother. My aunt and uncle have lived in the same house there. I moved there after college and lived there for about 7, 8 years before I made my trek all around Atlanta, Birmingham, Nashville before I met my husband. So anywho, I said, you know what? It's 5 hours away, but I said, I think maybe I can do this. Maybe I can. Okay. So I said yes, okay, to be a judge, to be a technical judge. If you don't know this about me, I have a ton of dancing experience. I was a Zumba instructor, did continuing education with dance from all around the country. For many years, I taught ballroom. I was assistant ballroom instructor, and then I danced throughout show choir, and then all throughout my childhood. Super crazy about dance. So I said, yes. I said, it's for a good cause. I'll get to see some of my friends, and that will be that. And so I said, yes. And, I always keep it real. I say mask off, right? So I keep it real with you. I don't know any other way to be. And as the day approached, I started to go, what have you gotten yourself into, Rachel? What boundaries? You teach boundaries, Rachel. What have you gotten yourself into? You are gonna have to drive 5 hours up there. You're gonna have to miss work, even though you can, take phone calls and things of that nature on the road. What have you gotten yourself into? And I started to dread it. Okay. Started to dread something that I knew was one, for a good cause, and two, that was going to be, and I get to see the friends, all that. So, a night before I pack, I'm going to tell you this and just make you laugh. I am rabid. I am crazy when it comes to leaving a clean house. And if my husband's here, my son's here, any of my kids, or even before that, over the years, I would say I've just become, because I want to come home to a clean home. Things need to be, I got to take care of animals. I got to do that. I got to clean litter box. I got to do stuff, before I leave. So I'm running around that morning, and we had made some of this great juice, carrots, apples, lime, cucumber, celery, and I put all my supplements in there. My husband and I call ourselves baby biohackers. We're baby biohackers. I take a lot of supplements, and I try to take care of myself because I've fought autoimmune issues and gut issues my entire life, and is in fact still battling those. And so I put all of these in this juice. I'm running around, and I'm getting on the road about 45 minutes later than I had intended to. And as I'm running around and putting this stuff in the juice, I felt myself running around, and here's your first lesson. I felt my nervous system start to And equal, or not equal, but add that to the dread that I had felt the night before, morning of, that was stealing my joy. And as I'm making this juice, I said to myself, stop, Rachel, stop. What are you rushing for? You're a judge, right? And I know you're supposed to be there at a certain time, but you're gonna be okay, right? Like it's gonna be okay, because I came to this realization, y'all, that half my life I have rushed. Now, there are certain things you need to rush for, like your wedding or a radio show, or, certain things you have to be on time. But I realized there were a lot of things in my life that I had self-imposed rushing, self-imposed stressing. And so I said, you know what? I said, stop. You're going to make it. It's going to be fine. Slow down, breathe. That was the first lesson. I talked to myself. Okay. Talk to yourself. I talk about this all the time. Coffee Bean, my friend Damon, he says, stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. So that was my first good thing I did. So then I'm getting ready to walk out the door, and my husband's talking to me. I'm standing on the stairs inside of our home, and I've got my juice there. I've got everything next to the door to go. And we're talking, talking, talking. And I go to reach down for the juice. Okay. I got to reach down for the juice. And I go, and it's a big wide lip jar. And by the way, I always, talk about baby biohacker and give you the advice. It's not medical advice. I'm just telling you what I do. Try to ditch your plastic and drink out of glass, old school glass, even what I'm about to tell you. Okay. So I go to grab it, and we're talking, and I go to shake it, and literally in slow motion, y'all, in slow motion, the glass jar with all of this goodness, all of my supplements, everything slips out of my hand, and in slow motion I watch it shatter in front of us. Orange goes all over him. I'm stepped up so it didn't get on me, but there's glass, there's juice everywhere. It is a monumental mess. Okay. And normally, and I teach like this. This is how I teach to be able to help you. Normally, he would have been frustrated at me. I would have been mad at myself. I would have been defensive, and it would have started a fight, and I would have left angry. Okay? Would have left angry. But we watch this happen in real time, and as we're watching this happen in real time, we look at each other, and neither one of us says much. We just kind of smile, laugh, I think, and we just get to work. He starts picking up glass. I go and get some old towels. And then we start sweeping, and it's a massive mess. I'm on my knees. He's cleaning. It's a massive mess. It's put me behind even more. Okay. And then he says to me, my husband says something of this nature. He says, look at us, look at me. He said, look at me. He said, normally I would have gotten mad about that, and this would have gone a whole different way. And I said, yeah. I said, but you didn't. And I said, guess what? It was an accident, and accidents happen. And in that moment, it was crazy. Like I had 3 or 4 phone calls where or voice notes where I was voice texting people about this incident, because here's the lesson. In that moment, we chose differently. Both of us chose differently. So him, instead of getting angry about it or getting irritated that he had to change pants, and he was, in between meetings, and he had to help me clean up, and it was all the and I didn't get defensive, and I didn't yell, and he didn't, and so we chose differently. And so instead of leaving angry in a fight, in a not good way, in a fight or flight in my nervous system, I left with a French kiss. I left with a French kiss. So what's your second lesson here? Your second lesson is, when you choose differently, reach around and give yourself a pat on the back, because I call these rusty old bear traps. And whether or not you are in a relationship, or you are single, or you are dating, or you have been married a short time or a long time, when we choose differently for ourselves, or in a relationship, a friendship, or a committed relationship, we choose differently. We choose a more healthy path. That is growth, baby. Now, that doesn't mean that down the road, if I spill a juice again or whatever it is, that we're not going to go fall into a rusty old bear trap, because that's human nature. That happens, right? But, but we chose differently this time, and it was beautiful. left. I mean, you talk about talking to my nervous system when I was rushing. Talking to my nervous system when I was rushing. And then on top of that, choosing differently, talking to myself, calming myself, and then choosing differently, the both of us, and patting ourselves on the back for leaving in love and not leaving in a fight, baby. It was a morning of revelations. Okay. So then I'm talking to my two friends via voice text. And one of my girlfriends, Catherine, says to me, she says something really smart. She said, when I leave late, I always think about what God has protected me from, you know? And I said, yes, that's so deep. That's so good. You're absolutely right. And I also, so it made me think about 9/11. It made me think about the people that I heard that one man had a blister, so he had to stop at the CVS, so he wasn't on the train, so he wasn't in the towers. Another person had to go back because their child had a poopy diaper and they were rushing, and they were irritated, but again, they weren't on the train and they weren't in the towers. And so you never know what you are being protected from. I will add another layer to this because I am straight up teaching in this podcast today. I will add another layer to this. And the other layer is my friend Dr. Kevin Elko always says that he was Nick Saban's right-hand mental man for 27 years. Okay. He always says, don't pray for a blessing, pray to be a blessing. What are you talking about, Rachel? When I travel, when things happen, when I get behind, I always say to myself, or if I get bumped from a plane or something happens, and instead of getting irritated, because I used to get irritated, again, talking to yourself, choosing differently. And this was a choose differently lesson for me in my life where when those things happen, I could let it derail my day. Did you have a bad day or did you have a bad 15 minutes that ruined your entire day? Or you can say this to yourself. I said, God, show me why my plane was delayed. Show me why I was rerouted. Show me why I missed this. Show me why. And I remember the first speaking engagement I had at Texas Tech after the pandemic, after I lost my entire speaking calendar year. The first speaking engagement I had back, I flew to Texas, had to take a COVID test to make sure that I was good, and got to speak to the team, and it was amazing. I recently shared a story on my socials. If you follow me on my socials, please do, about a player that we talked about, just a slight pivot shift, a slight perspective shift, and that is, if you wouldn't want somebody to talk about your mom or your sister that way, why are you talking about somebody's mom or sister that way? And so he said he went home. This was a player from Texas Tech. He said he went home. I could still see him. And a guy was talking badly about a woman that he used to date. And he said, hey, man, I just recently learned you wouldn't want somebody to talk about your mom or your sister that way, right? And he said, the guy goes, oh my gosh, I've never thought about it that way. So I went and taught this guy. And then he's teaching friends like a ripple on a pond. I'm changing the narrative, people. It's so amazing. Okay. So I remember leaving Texas Tech and the plane was delayed and I was grumbling. And this was the origin of this show me why, God. Show me why I'm delayed. Show me the old person I'm supposed to sit next to. Show me one time I was delayed and I ended up sitting next to an older woman who shared her crackers and cheese with me. Like she was like, you can't turn down crackers and cheese from a little old lady, right? But I remember when we were getting on the plane to go home and it was late. And it was late because a landing gear wouldn't come out. I don't know about you, with everything going on in the world today, or just in general, I want my landing gear to come out. And that was the origin of just saying, God, show me why, show me why. And so I said that as I'm driving up the road. And y'all, my nervous system, my attitude, my everything was different. These little mini lessons that happen. And I said, okay, God, show me why. And then I said Dr. Elko's line. I said, Lord, don't give me a blessing. Lord, let me be a blessing to somebody today. Okay, let me be a blessing to somebody today. And so I'm driving, having the best morning, handling things, on phone calls, all the things. And I decided between two different stops of where I was going to stop. I stop at the sandwich shop, Jersey Mike's, usually on this trip because I like to go back roads up through Georgia. But I decided to go to Chick-fil-A because I really wanted a sweet tea. And so I go to Chick-fil-A Okay, here's another one. Just you're right where God means for you to be. The juice was supposed to happen. Everything was supposed to happen the way that it was supposed to happen, y'all. So I go in and I go to the restroom and I walk outside. Okay, I walk outside, y'all, as if I'm going to get back in my car and just go through the drive-through instead of waiting in the line inside. I walk outside and at the last minute, I decide that I'm going to go back in and I'm going to order inside instead of going to a drive-through because it was very long. Chick-fil-A drive-through, right? Jesus chicken. And so I go back inside, I order my food, and I'm waiting on my food, and I am wearing this jacket, which I've got so many stories to tell you about these amazing people who donated to the auction and what they have done and how kind they are and how wonderful they are. So I am standing there and I hear somebody say to me, I hear somebody say, ma'am, ma'am. And I turn around and there's a little old man, 82 years old, sitting by himself. And he says, ma'am, you've got to tell me about this jacket. Now, if you've never seen, I have two jackets from this beautiful soul named Kelly in Nashville when I lived there. And I got introduced to her through a friend. One says Mrs. Rohe, and it's got a crown on the back and it's got gold tassels and also and rhinestones, and it's beautiful. And the other one says Queen for what I do, kings and queens. And every single time I wear this jacket, I get mega compliments, right? And I am the type, here's another lesson for you, man or woman. If you're wearing something that's amazing, particularly for my women, but also for my men, if you're wearing something that's amazing, please don't be the one that goes, I don't know where I got that. I don't remember. And especially if it is made by somebody, a small business that it could benefit somebody, give them the link, give them the information. So when I wear these jackets and also these painted hats I have, I swear I show people in the Instagram all the time. I don't know how many they've sold. I haven't asked for an affiliate link. I just want to help another small business. So this man, and I think his name was Mr. Ken. I've got his number because you're going to understand the story. And he says that jacket is just fantastic. And I said, my friend Kelly makes them and they are so amazing. And he said, I want to buy one for my both my daughter-in-laws. And I said, oh my gosh, your daughter-in-laws are going to be so blessed. They make great presents. You know, you get to collaborate with her. You get to pick the jacket. You tell her what you want to do, all of that. And so she will make it specifically for you. And so we start talking, and this sweet, precious little old man, Mr. Ken, says, would you like to, could I buy you lunch? And I said, Mr. Ken, I said, and I'd given him Kelly's number. I had, he said, would you take a picture of that jacket? Would you send it to me? I want to send it to my daughters. And I said, Mr. Ken, I said, if I wasn't on the way to something, and I wasn't already running a little late, I, I would so have lunch with you. He's a widower, only has his sister, lives in that town, born and raised. And we just had this pleasant exchange. We took a picture together and I walked away. I walked out going, I see now, God. It wasn't about a jacket. It was about having a genuine interaction with a little old man who needed somebody just to be kind to him. And I am so pro going to nursing homes. You know that if you've read Relentless Joy. I am so pro adopting an older person, checking on our neighbors, sitting and having conversations. And it just warmed my heart. And I walked out and I said, okay, God, I get it. I get why I dropped the juice. It wasn't just about Christopher and I. No, it was not. It, it was about Mr. Ken. And if I had been 5 minutes early or 5 minutes late, I wouldn't have met him. Woo! And it also, the tentacles of that are I get to bless Kelly. You know, Kelly's going to get to make a few jackets and so I get to bless her as a small business. So that was that. And I walked out and I voice noted the two people that I've been talking to, Catherine and my friend Jessica, all morning. And I was like, I figured out what it was. Don't pray for a blessing, pray to be a blessing. Okay. So my attitude is now like, whoop, it's up there. Okay. And so I go to this event And I was talking to one of my lifelong best friends who was the one that recommended me to step in at the last minute to my other friend. Now, listen, here is, gosh, so much teaching in this episode. And I know I always teach, but there's so much teaching in this episode. My friend Nellie said to me, I said, she said, can you stay? Can you stay? And I said, I can't. My kids are in town this weekend. My daughter's going back to Auburn. I've just got a lot to do. I've been on the road. I wish I could, but I can't. And so we were talking on the way up there, and she said, I heard somebody say this. She said, even if you can't spend a lot of time with your dear friends, with your best friends, just to be in their orbit for a small amount of time, it's just so good for your soul. And I said, Nellie, I said, oh my gosh, I had not thought about it that way. I literally genuinely had not thought about it that way. And that's such a beautiful way to think about it. So I get there, it all works out, get hair and makeup done, walk across the street to the event. I was a little late, but that was okay. Other people that were judges were late too, and we were totally okay because we had time, right? The show was not starting. I got what I needed to get. And I got to judge this awesome event, these 13 couples, these dancers, the pro and the person that, not really wasn't the pro, right? And they raised over $500,000 for ALS research. And the event was beautiful. I took so many takeaways for what we want to do for the gala next year and in years to come. And I knew some of my best friends were there. Now, as I mentioned, this was in Columbus, Georgia, one of the places I consider my hometown. So some of my lifelong best friends were there, the ones I was going to get to be in orbit with for a short amount of time, right? So they had the judges sequestered in the back. They had the judges sequestered in the back, and you weren't supposed to be able to see anybody until afterwards, okay? And so there was a break in the action. There were 7 dancers, and then you took a small break, an intermission, and then the last 6 dancers came back, and then that was it. Very well run event, very, very, very quick. And so I'm standing there in the behind the house, behind the curtains at this break, and I'm putting on some, let me just, again, being a girl's girl, ombre oil. Just trust me. AMBRE. Order the brown, order the purple. I get compliments on all the time. People are like, wow, you smell so good. It's all natural, it's clean, and it's not overpowering. It's oil. So I'm sitting there putting some oil on, retouching, and out of the corner of my eye, I see 2 of my lifelong best friends. And they say when you love somebody, you have friends in your life where nobody goes, you didn't call me, I haven't seen you, what are you doing? You didn't do this. You just pick right back up where you left off. And out of the corner of my eye, I see them. They have they have broken the rules and they have come behind the curtain and they're running towards me. And then I start running towards them. It's like something out of a movie. And their husbands are in tow, who are also dear lifelong friends of mine. Y'all, I didn't even recognize we were doing it, but we started screaming. Okay. It was straight out of a movie. We run towards each other. We start screaming. We are hugging, all 3 of us, jumping up and down, kissing on the cheeks. I mean, we are just, I haven't seen them in maybe 5 years, and their husbands come and then they wrap their arms around us. And the interaction was not but maybe 5 minutes long, if that. But it was like, I love you, I love you, I love you. You're so beautiful. Oh my God. And they were like, we had to see you. Like, they were like, we don't care. By the way, I didn't break any rules. I didn't break any rules with the judging. But we had to see, our Ray Ray. Because that's what my mom and grandmother called me. And they knew my mom and grandmother, R-A-E, R-E. And I remembered in that moment Nellie's words, another one of my best friends. I just got to be in their orbit for 5 minutes. And it was so good. And bless their hearts, they don't even know this. I haven't told them yet, but like I had the perfume oil all over my hands and it was all over their jackets. So they probably went home going, like, what was that? And later on, there was an after party after this Dancing with the Stars for the cast. And one of the MCs, who's also a broadcaster in Columbus, one of the MCs said, I was in the front of the house, not kidding, and I heard you hollering in the back. And I said, oh my God. I my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be loud, but I was seeing my best friends that I had not seen in years. We were just having a moment. And here's how I want to end this podcast today. If you've got a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time, pick up the phone and call them, text them, send them a message. I always laugh and say, send them a carrier pigeon, because there's something about old friends that have seen all the different versions of you and they love you still. They loved you when you were down. They loved you when you were out. They loved you. And these friends have seen me at my absolute worst in addiction. And they've seen me at my best. And they love me and I love them. And the gift that is to be known and loved all of these years. So do this for me. This is your takeaway. Talk to yourself, right? Talk to yourself. Don't just listen to yourself like I did with my nervous system. When you are late, ask the question, Lord, show me why. Show me why you have me change plans. Show me why you're late. When you yourself or you in a relationship with anybody make a different choice, like my husband and I did with the juice, reach around and pat yourself on the back. Also say what my friend Dr. Elko says, and that is don't pray for a blessing, pray to be a blessing, right? If you have an opportunity to have some interaction with an old person, then go and do that. Take them lunch, take them dinner, whatever it may be. Go to a nursing home, take your children to a nursing home, show them what empathy looks like in real life. That is why I am the way I am. My mom imprinted on me early. And if you haven't read Relentless Joy, she took me to nursing homes and we made big honking blueberry muffins. And she wouldn't let me eat them because when we baked them, because she would go in and ask for the person who hadn't had a visitor in the longest. We would bring them blueberry muffins and we would sit and talk with them and spend time with them, and it lit up their life. It lit up their world. And lastly, I'm glad I don't have makeup on other than mascara because I've cried it all off. And lastly, if you have a friend that you have not talked to in a long time, just tell them you love them, tell them you appreciate them. Say, I listened to this podcast and my friend Rachel, or however you know me or you don't know me, you just listen to me. But this gal, Rachel, told this story about being in her friend's orbit for just a short amount of time and how much it just touched her soul. And at that after party, I got to see another one of my best friends and some other really dear lifelong friends and their husbands. And it was just like the goodness that just like I couldn't even contain the goodness. Like I went home to my hotel across the street on cloud nine. So for me, your last lesson is call an old friend, text an old friend, just tell them you love them, tell them you appreciate them. If you get to be in their orbit even for 5 minutes, listen to me. It's so good for the soul. And when I drove home on Friday, literally drove there 5 hours, did the event, and got up the next morning and drove home. And so if you have that opportunity to be in somebody's orbit, and also shout out to my friend Ashley, I got to be in her orbit for a short amount of time. But if you have that opportunity to be in somebody's orbit for even the shortest amount of time, take it, because life is precious and life is short and you don't know when you'll get that opportunity again. And I think back now, just 48 hours before, where I was dreading it and saying, what have you done, Rachel? Like, this is too much. 5 hours in the event, then 5 hours back, it's too much. You're pushing too hard. And I'm so glad I went. I'm so glad I went. I made new connections. I got to help raise money for Alzheimer's. I've been in that trade center with my mom and my grandmother before. I drove by, last story, didn't think I was going to tell this, but I drove by my grandmother's house and I sat there and I listened to The House That Built Me by Miranda Lambert, and I just cried. Tears of joy, tears of sadness, tears of gratefulness, all the feels, every feel on the spectrum, because I grew up in that house. I looked, there was the living room, there was the extra room where she had the Klondike bars in there and the refrigerator and all of her junk, the junk room. There was the back room where we hung out and watched TV. There was her bedroom. Like I wanted to get out and walk up there. But I thought, this is, first of all, it's not my house. Second of all, didn't look like anybody was home. If they had, I might have knocked. And it was all the way out of town. And it was just so good for my soul to go back. So good for my soul. And really, lastly, I saw something the other day and I reposted it. I said, If March 2016 and March 2026 could sit down, I think it was March 2020 and March 2026 could sit down with each other, boy, the stories they would have to tell. And you could do it for any time period. But gracious, oh my gracious, oh my gracious. I'm just so grateful, y'all. My cup overflows. I hope you took something from this today. I hope you really, really learned something from this today. I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Blessings. Have a wonderful week ahead. Please take these lessons, pass them on to somebody. Be a ripple in a pond.
Hi, this is Lindsay Freezman. I'm really glad you're here with me. For the next few minutes, we're going to slow things down together and gently return to ourselves. This meditation is about letting go of the masks we wear and remembering the truth of who we are underneath them. So wherever you are right now, allow yourself to get comfortable. You can sit or lie down. Just find a position where your body can relax. And when you're ready, let's begin by finding your breath. Good. Again, simply breathe. Your breath is your anchor. Every inhale brings you deeper into this moment. Every exhale allows your body to soften just a little more. Now gently bring your awareness to your feet. Notice your feet. Feel them resting on the ground beneath you. Be where your feet are. Feel the support beneath you, the earth holding you steady, grounded, safe. Now allow your awareness to slowly travel up through your body, through your legs, into your stomach, and up into your chest. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your heart gently open. And now, become aware of something many of us carry, the roles we play, the expectations we hold, the versions of ourselves we learned to become so we could belong. At some point in life, most of us learn to wear masks. Masks that say, I'm fine, I'm strong, I've got it all together. These masks helped us. They protected us. They helped us navigate the world. And there is nothing wrong with that. But right now, in this moment, you don't need them. So imagine yourself standing in a quiet, peaceful space. A space of honesty. A space of truth. A space where nothing needs to be hidden. In front of you is the mask you've been wearing. Take a moment and notice it. What does it look like? What has it been protecting you from? And now, with compassion and gratitude for the version of you that needed it, gently take the mask off. Slowly, softly. As the mask comes away, something begins to shift. A sense of lightness, a sense of relief, a sense of honesty returning. Because underneath that mask, there is nothing broken, nothing missing, nothing you need to fix. There is only you, your real self, your authentic self, the part of you that has always been there. Take a slow breath here and notice how it feels in your body to simply be yourself. Notice the space in your chest. Notice the calm in your mind. Notice the quiet confidence that begins to rise. This is your natural state: presence, honesty, wholeness. And as you sit here, let these words gently settle into your mind. I am safe to be myself. I release the masks that no longer serve me. My truth is welcome here. Take one more slow breath in and let it go. Your breath is your anchor. Notice your feet. Be where your feet are. And remember, your story matters. Whenever you're ready, gently begin to bring your awareness back to the room. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and slowly open your eyes.